Welcome, everybody. We're going to do a session on pulling off a cadet great start. Now, I guess I want to start with a quick introduction. I don't want to spend a lot of time on myself, but give a little bit of credibility to the presenter. My name is Major Jared Horn. I am from the Joplin Colonel Travis Hoover Composite Squadron. I've been in Civil Air Patrol for about 10 or 11 years. I think 2010 is when I started. I was commander. I started out with a bunch of different hats, I guess, little things moving up, and then became commander of the squadron in Joplin. And I served my term, and in the beginning of 2020, I finished that and handed off command, and then took over as deputy commander for cadets since then. And that one of the first things I did as deputy commander for cadets is we had a good crew of new cadets that just started, and it was ideal for doing a cadet break start. So I have done this, and it was very successful, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go on. But we'll stop there with my introduction, and I want to start sharing, and I'm going to stop my video first so I take less bandwidth. And tell me, somebody, when you see my screen.
I can see it.
Are you seeing the Cadet Great Start screen? Because I'm not seeing it highlighted right.
Yes, Cadet Great Start is being seen.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to pull up e-services. So the resource is important, and it's also important that how to access the resource. So it's a pamphlet that's in. You can get to it through So the way I usually go, a lot of people will just type in go-civil-air-patrol.com, but I like to start in e-services. So I'll log in, and down at the bottom, you can click on go-civil-air-patrol.com. I've already done that. And this is the main page at go-civil-air-patrol.com. And to get where we want to go is you go into programs, cadet programs, and then this cadet library is very useful for anybody that's running a cadet program. So a little bit ways down when it starts with the titles here, index and program management, the third, no, not third. It's down a little ways farther than I remember where to go. All right, there it is. So in orientation, Cadet Great Start, it's pamphlet 60.21. If you click on that, it takes you to a page, and then the actual download is here. So that's how you get to it. And when you download it, you'll see it's an old pamphlet. Last edition was 2008, so you'll see there's some things that are outdated in it, but it's still a great resource and it still works. So this is the pamphlet or the document that you get, and it's huge. If you see up here, it's 101 pages. It has everything you need, almost everything. But all I'm going to do today is focus on this pamphlet and the guide, and just highlight a few things. It's not going to be, this is the content that you have to train, but it's about managing the program and implementing and putting it on. So first of all, it's this pamphlet 52-9, April 2008 was when it was created. So if you go through kind of the same way through gocivilelectural.com or even e-services, you can go into regs and get to the pamphlet from that. And that's the one you look for. So that's it. And then on page 3 here, it talks about the ways that you get cadets started. And there are 3 ways in general. The way that we've used in my squadrons for years too often is the trickle in. So you get a new cadet and you just kind of throw them to the wolves. You have this brand new cadet with experienced cadets, and they're trying to catch up, and they don't really have a lot of help. They're doing a lot of stuff on their own. So that's that way. And then there's a lot of disadvantages to that. And there's some statistics that show that cadets that are brought in that way don't stick around long. Not everyone. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. But in general, that's not the best way. Sometimes it's the only option you have, though. So there are things that you can do if that's the case to make it better. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The second option is what they call here basic cadet training. And that's what I heard referred to as a Curry weekend. It'd be 2 days that you send that cadet, the new cadet, off to either a group level or even a wing level that would put on a basic cadet training for new cadets. And at the end of that weekend, that 2 days, you would go from a brand new cadet to having achieved the first achievement, the Curry. So that's option 2. It's not always viable to everybody, and it's not offered very often. And then the pipeline method, that's really what this whole document's about, is how to do it in a pipeline. So it's typically at a squadron level, and you spread it out over 5 weeks, and they'll show you the details here, and I'll walk through those. You combine squadron time it's really 5 weeks of squadron time, and in between week 4 and 5 you have a field day, which is like a Saturday, pretty much a full day, and you get a lot done during that time. So that's the better way, and I can tell you that when I was able to do it recently, it's been successful, and I've got every one of those cadets excited and advancing. It's been, I think, 4 or 5 months since we've done the Great Start, and every one of those cadets have advanced beyond just the Curry. One of them's ready for Wright brothers from that anyway. So just a quick rundown of the hallmarks of the cadet orientation and training course, or going through Great Start. The best way is to begin with an open house or a recruiting activity where you've brought in a handful of new prospects through an open house or some other type of recruiting event. That way you have that cohort of new cadets that are at the same level. It's structured, so it sets learning objectives and that are designed for new cadets. This document has everything you need, all the training guides, everything that you need to implement it. So you don't have to look up regulations, you don't have to look up outside resources. It's all here. It allows you to use your experienced cadets to put on some of the training courses. So you give them that experience, that leadership experience. It talks to parents. There's lessons that are designed just for parents. In my case, the parents were sitting in on the entire thing, so that they were the types of parents that like to sit in the back of the room, don't want to be a member, but they've continued to be that. They don't drop their kids off and leave. So and I think it's because they sat through this and learned about, you know, what their cadets are doing and how important it's going to be for them to be involved, at least to know what's going on. The administrative tasks. So this document will walk you through everything you need to do. It talks about checklists. It talks about things that you need to do before you give a module. It's all there. And it gets the cadets excited. And we concluded, we were lucky enough to be able to do this, and I highly encourage you to make sure that it happens. Because at the end of Great Start, when those cadets completed the 5 weeks for us, that they got kind of rewarded with an orientation flight. So that's pretty cool. And it did wonders for my cadets. Okay, so this talks a little bit about what you do, and I wanted to show you something that I've learned, and whether you know this or not, probably so, but it's a huge help for me when I'm dealing with PDF documents, or in most of our regulations come in PDF format. And this is also something that you can teach cadets when they're going through studying for tests. And I'm referring more to Civil Air Patrol, leadership, and aerospace tests. If they can get the material in a PDF format, they can find things really easy by using the Control F function. So you're in a PDF document, you hit the keys Control F, and it pulls up this little find window. So I'm probably telling people that know this already, but it's a big deal for me. So the next thing I want to talk about is this document helps you train your experienced cadets, and it says NCOs. So it tells you right here that the lesson is called P2. So this is a huge document, 110 pages. It's not easy to scroll through and find all this stuff. So anytime you're looking for something in this document, or any PDF document, you can do that Control F and type in. So I'm going to type in P2. And you see it found 5 of them. So the first one's here where it talks about the overview of it. But if I go down a couple times, it's actually activity P2, which is on page 18 of this document. This is the lesson that you would teach your experienced cadets before they give a lesson. So run them through this training. It's like 5 or 6 pages, and you can create it however you want and present it the way that they would take it. But so that prepares them, and then at that point you have all those cadets that you trained. There's going to be, I don't know the number, 20 lessons that need to be presented during Cadet Great Start. You can start divvying up and let them choose which ones they want to give. So first of all, showing you that Control F, the find in PDF is important for this, putting on Cadet Great Start, but also important for teaching others how to help them study. And if it's an open book test, they can have the document pulled up, and they get a question, and they have another screen, or they open up that document and search for a word and keyword inside the question. That'll help them there too. Only an open book test though. Okay. So that's the preliminary stuff for preparing, some of the preliminary stuff for preparing for Great Start. And then on page 8, right here, this is what is covered. So just an overview of the modules that are part of Great Start. So there's blocks that are about leadership, and then there's objectives of the block, and then the specific lesson. So this is 2.1 or 2.11. That's what you'd search for to get the actual training material in this document. So that's like the number of the training. But 2.1 is Leadership Foundations 1. And in this case, it recommends or tells you it's going to take about 30 minutes to present. And this helps you with planning. But this is what's covered in that leadership block. And then there's aerospace and physical fitness. This is, again, just a high level overview of Cadet Great Start. We'll get into a little bit more detail on the planning here in a minute. And then after PT, there's character development. And you'll see here, these are the things they teach in character development. And that's specifically the titles of the lessons. And you might happen to notice Wingman is not included in this lesson. So that's something you'll have to, if you're doing Great Start and you want your cadets to be able to get their Achievement 1 Curry at the end of it, you'll need to modify this, or you'll have to modify this or add the Wingman course. Have your character development instructor or whoever can deliver that Wingman course. And then there's special activities. So you'll see in here when they talk about the objectives of the program, and it's in general the cadet program, but Cadet Great Start in particular, is you want the cadets to be engaged and have fun. And these special activities are designed for that. Okay, page 12. So these are the guidelines for implementing Cadet Great Start. You need to have somebody in charge of the overall charge of the leadership of the course. That person is going to make sure everything's set up, make sure the presenters are there and on time and ready, and even assigning the presenters. There's a blurb in here about the eligibility of the students. They need to be prospective cadets. And then the design of this curriculum. So this is how it's designed. There's a sequence, and we'll go over that. There's a method of instruction. So each one of the modules will have some pointers to help the instructor. And then there is a field day that's included. There's no way that you'll be able to do this without at least one part day, if not a whole day on a Saturday in this 5-week span. If you don't do that, it's going to go over way more than 5 weeks, and people are going to get burned out and get disinterested. So you want the new cadet to be advanced by the end of this, and end of our 5 weeks is the max, really, I think. And then you can personalize. There's nothing that says you can't personalize or any of the lessons, and you want to make it relevant to the culture that you're in, the cadets or prospective cadets that you have in the class and your area, wherever you're giving this. You want it to be fun, inspire cadets. All right, page 16. I'm just going over these. I don't want to read the document to you. This is where I want to spend most of the time, I think, talking about the schedule. We follow this pretty much to the T. You don't have to follow it to the T. You can add and subtract things on different weeks. But we dedicated, and I talked with the commander before I started, that I wanted to dedicate cadet time for an entire squadron meeting for these 5 weeks. So we have a normal typical schedule where we have week 1, we do this, week 2, we do that. That went out the window during this 5 weeks, and we did this instead. So these are, it's designed or tells you what you can do, suggests what you can do on week 1. And again, we have a 2 hours during a Tuesday night meeting to cover this. And worked fairly well for us. So we start week 1, and this week 1, by the way, is after you've done an open house, and maybe some of this stuff was covered during the open house and maybe not. Even if it was, you want to repeat in a more closed setting so that they can retain. So exciting opportunities. That module 1.1, and by the way, I'll just show you real quick. Control F. Type in 1.1 and let it find it. So it's going to show it here. Go to the next one. There it is. This is your syllabus. This tells you everything you need to do for that lesson. And it's organized the way it said it was before. Suggested presenter, how long it should take, what's the goal, what visual aids do you need, and outline of the events of giving the module. So there we go. And I need to go back to page 16. So each one of these, like I said, you can do that. Control F and find the actual material. So opportunities, 45 minutes, and then cadet membership. So a lesson on cadet membership. What does that mean? 20 minutes. And then here's an activity, the minefield activity. That was kind of fun. This is very similar to what happens in Wingman, but it's a little bit different. You put obstacles in an open space, and you have one cadet blindfolded and you have another one guiding them, but it's not with the stick like you do in Wingman. It's a little different, but it's fun. It's fun to watch. And during that, you can have a parent's introduction lesson. While the cadets are in a big room having fun, the parents can go to another room and learn, about Civil Air Patrol and what their cadets are going to be doing. And then you finish the day with 15 minutes on an overview of what's coming up next, starting in week 2. And you give homework, so it tells you what to assign them, and it gives you an idea of if the cadets are actually going to do it. When you come back the next week, ask them if they did their homework. It's a good tell. And if they didn't, then that means you need to try something different to get them to do it. So browse the web in this case, and then repeat events on the weekend if new recruits surface. So this is a good reminder here. So if you do a 5-week program and you have a fairly active recruiting things going on, and cadets may show up, maybe the open house was one weekend and then you started on the next week, but it took one of the cadets that went to the open house 2 weeks or 3 weeks to decide to come. And so they're going to show up in the middle of this. So this just tells you that you can be flexible with that and let them into the great start, even if they weren't there for week 1, or even if they weren't there for week 2. How do you get them caught up? And we had that happen in our case as well. So that's week 1. Week 2, you do a lesson on followership, and then you start. So there's, I think, 3 or 4 drill lessons that they walk you through. It definitely gets you to Achievement 1 drill test. So you do a drill section for 30 minutes and customs and courtesies for 30 minutes. And then there's an identity crisis story to tell and ask for their feedback. And then there's some student materials you can hand out, or that you want to hand out. And then they want the cadets to read chapter 1 in leadership, and it's measure, and then start measuring for your uniform. So this, if you happen to recall, 2008, this was when you, right after you filled out your application, you also filled out the uniform size chart thing, and National would send you the blues to the new cadet right then. So it was before the $100 Vanguard voucher after Curry. So that's why that's here. And you can have a measure, you can tell them about Vanguard here and get them prepared for ordering from Vanguard once they get their voucher at the end of week 5. But this is there because it was part of the application before that change. So then week 3, 30 minutes on chain of command, 30 minutes on a drill again. So it's the second lesson in drill. And then there's another customs and courtesy. They call it a lab for 30 minutes. And then insignia, grade insignia. So that's something that's important to the cadets. And that finishes out week 3 in your squadron meetings. And there's another handout to distribute. It's Cat Form 15. And review the uniform mini poster. So that's a pamphlet, I believe, that you can find in e-services. And then review grade insignia. So that's in that pamphlet. So as you know, for testing and for being able to memorize, they need to know what the different grade insignia look like and be able to identify. So getting them to study it on their own from the beginning is important. It's a good idea. So here they did the field day between week 3 and 4. And what you do on the field day is down here. I'll show you that once we get through week 4 and 5. So after you've done the field day, you come back and you actually give them time during the squadron meeting during this week to take the Curry exam, the leadership exam, and to do the drill test. And then we take 50 minutes to do PT. And then after PT, after they're sweaty and tired, we take them in for 5 minutes and recite the cadet oath. And then you need to, as you would know if you've done any cadet programs administration, you know that when they take a test, they have the ability to look over their results, and it tells them what they got right and what they got wrong. And when they don't ever tell them the answer, but they tell them where to find the answer, and that's all online. Even the milestone tests that are online do the same thing. So after 3 weeks of squadron stuff, field day on Saturday, which is a bunch of stuff you'll see in a minute. You've taken the test on week 4. Week 5 is kind of just wrap up and celebrate, really. But you do a tutorial in uniform because we don't expect cadets to have their uniform until they've achieved their Curry. A feedback meeting, so you want to see how it went, and that's important because you're going to have the more experienced cadets, or maybe not it could be NCO cadets. That's what I'm thinking of. They're the ones that need the feedback more than anything. Let the cadets, the brand new cadets, tell them, what they liked and what they may be able to improve on. Pre-flight activity. So that refers to the fact that we're going to be doing, hopefully, and then either the weekend following week 5 or sometime very shortly, going to be doing an orientation flight. So you can open the orientation flight manual or pamphlet and go through the pre-flight, what needs to be talked about before you fly. And then you could do a promotion ceremony at the end and celebrate with a social. And again, that Saturday hopefully will be devoted to flying. Each week, and I'll just show you here on the left, you start with formation, do the national anthem, the cadet oath, have announcements. This is a typical opening for a meeting, and then review what we're going to talk about. And then you do the activities, and then do a closing formation, and 2.5 hours is what it's all designed for, and that's what we have in our squadron meeting. So, okay, between week 3 and 4, there's the field day. It's 8 in the morning to 5:15, closing formation at 5:15. So it's a full day. You need to prepare for it. Make sure you got lunch taken care of. Either bring it in or make sure you provide them enough time and warning that you're going to let them go out on their own for lunch. It's best to keep them there because different cadets will come back at different times and it will mess up your day. You can control it better if you have food there. So opening formation, and so it's spelled out for you. It tells you what time to start each activity, the activity number. So again, you can search for each one of these to get the details on how to do it. And you see that you're doing drill, core values. This may be a good time to try to fit in the wingman, cadet oath, the uniform. There's a lesson on that, and then wear the uniform. There's just more details on that, and then drill again. Have lunch. Do a field safety activity. Compass course. That's really fun for the cadets. Really enjoyed that on our field day. And that, by the way, that's a good opportunity. So I'm telling you opportunities to get your NCOs and officer cadets involved. The compass course and any of this stuff, but the compass course in particular was for me a good opportunity to get a senior member that likes, the emergency services and likes to do the compass course. So you can get your senior members involved for stuff like this. There's an 8 aerospace education team activity, a lesson on progression, and then you take some time for pre-test. And there's a pre-test section and Jeopardy, which is a little bit more fun. They're kind of together, but this document has the details of how to do a Jeopardy style pre-test, which was fun for our cadets. And it wasn't ideal, but you can look online and pull up a template for you to make it in PowerPoint or whatever, and it exposes the answer, and then they have to come up with the question, and it hides it until they come up with it, and it tells you the points for the different categories. So it's fun. And then at this point, after you've done that, you have them change into PT clothes, and then do a section on introduction to fitness, and then you actually do the fitness activity, and then you close. So that's a long day, and it's a good day, and cadets had fun the entire day. So the other option that I told you, option 2 from earlier, where you send them off for a weekend to group or to wing to do this over 2 days. This is the schedule for that and what they do. We did not use this schedule in our Great Start, but here it is if you wanted to do it. All right, so that's the schedule, and then page 18, which is right here. This is, I pulled this up earlier. This is the training that you put your NCOs or officers through before they give modules in the Great Start. Page 23. This is where all those activities, so that they're listed, the numbers, activity numbers listed in the schedule above. So it starts here on page 23 and goes all the way to page 90. So it's all the activities, all the detail, and I'm not gonna read through them, but I'll flip through a few so you can see, how much detail there is here. And then I'm gonna skip down to page 90 a little bit quicker. So I'm gonna try to make it quicker. All right, and then page 91 are the checklists. So these are the things that are mentioned up above on the administration portion and how to do it. But this is where in the appendix where the checklists are. So there's a checklist on pre-planning and open house. So this is what you would do before you start a Great Start program, and it gives you some ideas, some suggestions on how to do an open house, recruiting activity, and then anything else you need to do beforehand. It goes in 6 weeks before the open house, 4 weeks before the open house, 3 weeks, 2, 1 week, and then 2 days after. And here's the day of the open house. And then some things you do for follow-up. And this refers to follow-up of the Great Start program itself. And then there's a Great Start checklist. This is all the details in a bullet format of what you need to do. Week 1 of the open, so it's open house, between meetings, week 2, week 3. So this is all your checklist. And then the material that you need to have. You need to have a projector, a computer, a screen, a way to show video. Don't necessarily have to have a TV or a VCR these days. The cat video that you'll find on GoCivilRepPatrol.com in the public affairs section, and that's there too, and other things you might need. So, and then here's a sample news release. So it's in the checklist on what to do prior to, but one of the things to do is issue a news release to the local paper. So before the open house, especially, so you can get people to show up. And they've got a template for you. Send letters to schools. That's another thing that's in the checklist of stuff to do prior to. But you want to send a letter to schools to get some administrators at schools on board and pushing your activity. And then the last page are frequently asked questions. It sums up the document and just adds a little bit of more meat to it. So, is the Cadet Great Start program mandatory? The answer is no. Must the course be conducted during weekly squadron meetings? It doesn't have to, but it is recommended. Again, depending on which style you're using, does Cadet Great Start have its own homepage? It does. When conducting Great Start, how closely do instructors have to follow the Great Start lesson plans? You can customize. Who should lead the Great Start? Starts with the commander, but then deputy commander for cadets, and you want your cadet leadership, your cadet experienced cadets to do some part of it, not necessarily lead it, but at least take part. Who can instruct? Are units obligated to fulfilling the reporting requirements if they offer Great Start? I think the answer is no. There's no requirement other than the documentation of completing the tests and the stuff for a curry. How do you get the materials? This tells you the website to find what we're looking at right now. If you're looking at this, you've got them. Is it new? It was when it first came out. What is the group or wing's role? And their role is if they should offer that curry weekend or the Great Start weekend on a fairly regular basis when they have the interest. That's important. So their role is to provide it. Our role farther down in the squadron level is to show the interest. Where should I send my questions or comments about Great Start? And there you go, National Headquarters. Okay, so that's the overview of the Cadet Great Start program. I would take questions. I'm going to stop sharing now. But yeah, there's a couple people that jumped in since I started. So are there any questions before we wrap up? Is anybody listening?
Yep, we're here, Jared.
All right, awesome.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Did that, for those few that are here, did that meet the expectation you had of this breakout session?
Yes, I thought it was very good. Thank you.
I too thought it was a good overview. It's a good place to start. And thanks for going through the whole pamphlet there so we can get a good idea where things are.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'll end the session, and thank you for attending. And you can reach out to me or Lieutenant Colonel Totebush. Not sure when you'll be watching or listening to this, but we could answer any questions you have on Great Start. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.